Look, we've been very, very clear, and I'll say this again. The president was very clear. The American people spoke very loudly and very clearly. It is, we've been very clear.
Help us understand, given the frequency with which President Biden works in Delaware, what is the case against having visitor logs for his house?
So I am going to refer you to the White House counsel. They actually addressed this. They answered this question that you are asking me, I believe, on Sunday, and I also believe the Secret Service put out a statement, so I would refer you to those two statements that came out from the White House. I want to be very clear about this, but this is something that we obviously take very seriously. So let me be clear, but we've been really clear, so clearly that is important to us, but we've been very clear. The President has been very clear, the Vice President has been very clear, but I want to be very clear.
I want to reference an interview that President Biden did in mid-September with 60 Minutes. And in that interview, he chided former President Trump for having in his possession classified documents. He called it irresponsible. First of all, do you think it was proper for President Biden to comment on an ongoing DOJ investigation?
So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to keep it really short today, as it relates to this particular issue, as it relates to an ongoing legal matter. I'm going to refer you to Department of Justice with that specific, as it relates to anything that you want to ask of us about this legal matter. I would refer you to the White House counsel office. I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to go into further.
I'm simply asking you to comment
I just commented. We're moving on. Go ahead. No, go ahead. I already answered your question. Go ahead.
You really didn't.
Well, I did.
No, you didn't.
Well, it's your opinion. It's your opinion. It's your opinion. That is your opinion. Go ahead.
I'm going to say this. The president takes classified information seriously. You heard that directly from him. Classified documents seriously. You heard that directly from him last week. And I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to open this up for discussion. We have answered many questions as it is related to the documents. Any specifics that's related to this review, this legal process, I would refer you to the Department of Justice. And any questions that you may have of us, I would refer you to my colleagues at the White House counsel's office. So I'll leave it there.
How the president is feeling? Is he worried about those documents that were found, or did he somehow regret to what he had done with those documents being found at his property? Is he worried about that?
First, I'm going to repeat what I just said moments ago. He takes this very seriously when it comes to classified documents, when it comes to classified information. He was unaware that the documents were there. You heard that directly from him, from the president. Twice he spoke to this just last week. And his team is fully cooperating with this process, with this ongoing legal process. Anything specific dealing with this issue, I would refer to the Department of Justice or the special counsel, and I'll leave it there.
And can I just follow up what you just said earlier about the president being surprised the documents were even there? That he said multiple times, you've said again, he was unaware that these classified documents were even in his garage, in his residence. Given that you could actually just be surprised that documents were there, does that suggest to you, to this White House, that reform is needed? There needs to be changes for how classified documents are tracked through the U.S. government.
I'm not in a position to talk about reform or how this process should go forward. What I will say is this is something that's being reviewed by the Department of Justice. I would refer you to them. I would refer you to the special counsel. I'm just not going to go any further than that, clearly. And so the president takes that very seriously. So let me just be clear. I think we've been very clear.
Just to be clear, my question's about procedures here at the White House and not about anything specific related to the DOJ investigation. So I'm just wondering how this episode has prompted a review of the process in which staffers handle classified information and how they are turned over to National Archives during a transition.
And to be clear, I'm going to refer you to my colleagues at the White House counsel's office. They will be able to address that particular questions. I'm just not going to address something that is even related to an ongoing legal process.
Why not? I mean, I'm having a hard time understanding why
I just said
questions about procedure would
and I
impact
just
the
said, and I just said to you, the White House counsel's office will be able to address that question.
Is President Biden satisfied with the current SOP of handling classified materials here and turning them over to National Archives?
Again, I will refer you to the White House counsel's office. They're the people who would be able to answer that question about classified
So just to
information.
be clear, from this point on, are you not going to be taking questions about the classified documents?
I have been very clear over and over again. We are going to be prudent here. We're going to be consistent. This particular matter is being looked at. There's a legal process currently happening at the Department of Justice, and I'm going to refer you to the Department of Justice on any specifics to this particular case, and anything that has to deal with what we're doing here, I would refer you to the White House counsel's office. And let me remind you, this is not a new process here. We've been doing this for the past 2 years. Anything that is related to a legal process, a legal matter, we refer it to the Department of Justice. There's nothing new in our process here.
Great. Thank you, Karine. Since so many of our questions have been referred to the DOJ and to the White House counsel's office, I'm sure you can understand that we're in sort of information blackout where DOJ refers us to the special counsel. They're not holding any briefings. White House counsel refers us to DOJ. So if you are not able to talk about this from the podium, would you invite a DOJ official to take our questions here to the briefing?
No, you would have to go to the Department of Justice. That is not, this is a legal matter that is currently happening at the Department of Justice. And the President has been very, very clear when it comes to these types of legal matters, when it comes to investigations, he's not going to interfere. He wants to make sure that we give back the independence that the Department of Justice should have when it comes to these types of investigations. So certainly would not be bringing them here. So I would refer you to the Department of Justice. I was just very clear. If you have any questions, I would refer you to the White House counsel's office. They did a call for 45 minutes yesterday, speaking to many of you. I believe there were more than 200 people on that call. And so I would refer you to my colleagues at the White House counsel's office.
We're just not getting a lot of questions.
Go ahead.
Sorry, but on questions that you should be able to answer here that shouldn't have to go to any other agency or entity, can you tell us if there's any sort of assessment that has been planned or launched to determine if national security has been jeopardized at all?
Again, that's for the Department of
Why
Justice.
is it a DOJ
and
question?
And let's be clear, it's not your decision to make on what I can or can't answer from here. What I'm telling you is that we are respecting the process. We are being prudent from here. There is an investigation currently happening. And when there are investigations that are happening that the DOJ is currently reviewing or looking at, we have been very consistent to say that you need to go to the Department of Justice.
Are they working with NSC or with any other intelligence
Again,
agency?
I would
don't
refer you.
understand why we're being
It's very clear. I just laid out. There should be no confusion here. There is a legal process happening, and I would refer you to the Department of Justice. Okay, go ahead, Peter.
Can I just follow up on that? We've all reached out to the Department of Justice. A law enforcement official tells NBC News the Justice Department has not told the White House that it cannot talk about the facts underlying the special counsel investigation into classified documents. So trusting you've received that same information, understanding the desire to be prudent, then why can't you speak about the underlying facts?
We've been very clear when it comes to even underlying facts, when it comes to specifics, when it comes to something that is under the purview, that the Department of Justice is looking at, especially legal matters, investigations, we do not comment from here, Peter. That has been consistent.
So
We've been
understanding that
very consistent.
Bob Bauer, who represents the president's personal attorney over the weekend, said that one of the reasons why, and Ian Sams, your colleague who speaks on behalf of the special counsel at the White House, spoke to this in some form yesterday. But he said one of the reasons why they shouldn't reveal further details right now was regular ongoing public disclosures also pose the risk that as further information develops, answers provided on this periodic basis may be incomplete. When the White House did release a statement, the president spoke out on January 9th, the risk of incompletion was a function of the White House's decision not to share all the information it knew, in fact, because we knew on November 2nd, and the first discovery was made. We knew the second discovery was made on December 20th. So there's a risk of incompletion, but will you concede that it's the White House that has been incomplete in its provision of information when it did choose to speak out publicly on January 9th?
My colleague actually dealt with this question on the call yesterday on the White House counsel's
He made the
office.
same point
As
about the risk
you,
of incompletion.
and I would refer you to the White House counsel's
Then may I
office.
then is the White House having any conversations internally about finding someone, much the same way John Kirby has spoken on behalf of national security issues at this podium as your colleague, as their representative? Is there someone, is the White House in talks right now to find someone either outside the White House or internally who can speak on behalf of the White House representing the special counsel office within the White House from this podium? Or any of those talks?
I would refer you to the White House counsel's office.
Well, but you're the communications,
I
you
would-
run communications,
I-
so I'm asking
I-
about you as a communications matter
We-
playing any
there
part of
is-
those
you-
conversations existing.
Peter, you have spoken to my colleague who did, again, a 45-minute call with all of you, answering questions
But on
about.
if you would acknowledge it's on background, though, Karine, not on the record until the call ends, that means the American people can't see it in public. So we're asking, will there be a
But many-
representative who would
but-
speak on camera and see it in public?
But the call was indeed, he was quoted, it was in papers, it was on networks.
Correct, but because they can't witness it happening live, Americans don't get the same transparency into this back and forth. I'm asking, is the White House having a conversation?
Peter,
This is just with respect. You guys brought John Kirby in. I'm asking if that
Peter,
conversation exists.
the fact that he spoke to all of you reporters who report on this, and then you all reported on it back to the American people, I believe that is transparency. I believe that he shared information, he answered your questions that you believe that the American people wanted to hear, and he answered those questions.
So my
And
question is,
he took 45 minutes to do that.
For which we're grateful.
Anything else that you have on this, Peter, I would refer you to the White House counsel. Peter, I'm
I
not,
just wanna be
we
clear.
just went
Are you
back.
having- So just the
We're-
question is, are
Peter-
you having a conversation about
I-
adding a
Peter-
member to the staff
Peter-
to speak publicly on this?
Peter,
It's a
I
yes or no. You
just,
can just
I
say no.
actually just answered that question. I said, we have someone currently,
So that
right?
means no.
We have someone currently who answered your questions for 45 minutes on a call and took your questions.
Yes.
Took your questions about this particular issue.
Correct.
He will continue to do that. He will continue to engage with all of you, right, on this issue, on this legal process that's currently happening from the White House counsel's office. After that, Peter, I don't have anything else to share. And so that's what we've been very clear about. We've been very clear about, we've been very clear. We've been incredibly clear here. We're going to be, continue to say that. We're going to be very clear. It should be done without conditions. Thank you, everybody.